we can see the beginning of this chain from Alan Bates at 4 on Monday the 23rd of September, and it's to you and others.
Yes.
And Mr. Bates says, this afternoon I received the following email. It's a prime example of the thuggery being exerted on defenceless sub-postmasters as the Post Office deny legal representation by arrogant and uncontrolled Post Office personnel. Despite assurances from on high that this type of thing is in the past, it's clear from Post Office's actions it's still alive and active through the ranks. And then there's the email. Hello, Alan. I'm writing on behalf of my son-in-law, Martin Griffiths, who has recently been in touch with you about the treatment doled out to him by the hierarchy at the Crown Office in Chester. He had an armed raid in May, and the faceless wonders at Crown Office have intimated he was culpable. Had him at the Kangaroo Court, where he was not allowed any representation of his own. He was a broken man then. However, he was sent for last Friday to attend a meeting with the Crown Office personnel again, and all weekend he's clearly not been himself. This morning he drove off to work, got out of his car and walked in front of a bus. He's dangerously ill in hospital at Liverpool. The Post Office had driven him to suicide. All the family are at the hospital. I'm alone, waiting by the phone for further news of him. I'd urge you to publicise this, another incident that's been caused by the bully boys at Crown Office. May God forgive them. Mr. Bates continues, I'm aware of Martin's case. I know he was terrified to raise his shortages with the Post Office because of just this type of thing happening to him, but the Post Office got him in the end. Regardless of what may or may not have occurred with him, why did the Post Office have to hound him to the point of trying to take his own life? Why? Despite numerous warnings of never to attend any discussion with Post Office without legal representation, Martin, trying to be helpful, didn't take anyone with him as per the conditions the Post Office demand. If the Post Office cannot control their personnel, then the very least they can do is authorise and insist on a sub-postmaster taking legal representation with them to any meeting with Post Office. I'm very, very angry about this, and as per the wishes of the family, I'll be contacting many of the media contacts we've built up with over the years. Can we look, please, at poll 0011 6133, please? This is an email chain between you and Susan Crichton that begins on that evening, the evening of the 23rd of September. Can we look at the bottom of page 1, please? Susan Crichton at 9:38 says, confirm I've spoken to Alan Bates, explained that the family had been in touch today and asked for help in branch as the sub-postmaster had been involved in a car accident. I explained Andrew's looking into this. We'll catch up with him tomorrow. Alan has rung back to say the message re car accident was a miscommunication from a family member and it's definitely a suicide attempt. Andrew and I will agree how to handle this tomorrow. As the facts read the sub-postmaster are not as represented by the email. And then if we scroll up, please, we see your, there, thank you, we see your reply at 10:12 that night. Thank you. 2 points for me tonight. Firstly, but most importantly in the exchanges, I haven't seen anything re how Martin Griffiths is. Do we know how, are we in the loop? And then if it's an attempted suicide, as we sadly know, there are usually several contributory factors. Are the police involved? And are we in direct contact with the family? At this stage, why were you raising the fact that there were usually several contributory factors involved?
The first thing to say is, as I say in my statement, I am very sorry about this, and that just sounds too shallow. Every email you will see from me about Mr. Griffiths, I start with him and how he was or how his family are. The Post Office took far too long to deal with it. And to answer your question about contributory factors, one of the other things that I had to do as Chief Executive was to understand if there were details to understand how this... I would have to communicate something so serious as this to the board, and I think I was trying to find out whether there was anything else behind it. I had a personal experience of a previous post office colleague who had took their own lives, and I phoned the family, and I spoke to the father, who explained to me that there were other issues involved. And I imagine that, I'm sorry, I imagine that I was probably...
Ms. Vennells, just rather than trying to talk through your...
So I beg your pardon.
Just pause.
Yes, okay.
Try and compose yourself if you can, and then continue your evidence, please.
Thank you. In this particular case, I had spoken to the sub-postmaster's father, who had said to me that there were other contributory factors in his son's death, and they were very grateful for the call that I had made. In Mr. Griffiths' case, I also offered to do the same, and I was told by the General Manager of the Crown Officers that that wasn't needed and other people were in the loop. I imagine that what I was doing here in this email was recalling that previous incident. But what you will see is that in every email that I wrote on this, my first concern was for Mr. Griffiths and his family. And as I've said in my statement, sorry is an inadequate word. I'm just so sorry that Mr. Griffiths isn't here today.